Staff Sergeant David Bellavia, Fallujah, Iraq. November 10, 2004, his 29th birthday. He was a squad leader, and his platoon was clearing a block of houses held by insurgents. The first 9 were empty, but full of enemy weapons: rockets, grenade launchers, ammunition. In the 10th house, insurgents hidden behind a barricade opened fire and trapped a squad inside a single room. The fire was coming from a fortified position under the stairs. Bellavia grabbed an automatic weapon, stepped into the doorway alone, and laid down fire so his squad could break contact and get out. A Bradley fighting vehicle rolled up to help, but the walls around the house were too high for it to hit the position, so it couldn't reach them. That's when Bellavia went back in, alone. Room by room, in the dark, he cleared the house and killed the insurgents inside, one of them in a hand-to-hand fight with a knife. A word about how I'm ranking these, because it matters. I'm ranking them by the situation each man was dropped into, the size of the attack hitting his position, whether he had cover, whether he had a weapon, and how long he had to survive it. I'm not ranking them by how many men each one personally killed. That number isn't the point, and honestly it isn't knowable. Least impossible does not mean least brave. It means the odds, as best anyone can reconstruct them, were less stacked against him than the men still to come. Bellavia cleared one building against a handful of insurgents, with a weapon in his hands. By number 1, a man does the same kind of thing with no weapon at all. For what it's worth, Bellavia was the first living Medal of Honor recipient from the Iraq War. Number 5, 2nd Lieutenant Audie Murphy, Holtweier, France. January 26, 1945. He was 19 years old. Murphy commanded Company B. 6 German tanks and around 250 infantry moved on his position. His company had already taken heavy casualties, so he ordered what was left of his men back into the trees and stayed forward alone, directing artillery over a field telephone. Behind him, an American tank destroyer took a direct hit and caught fire. Its crew pulled back into the woods. Murphy climbed onto the burning vehicle, got behind its 50 caliber machine gun, and held off the German infantry for close to an hour, exposed on top of a vehicle that could have gone up under him at any moment. When a squad crawled up a ditch toward him, he spotted them and killed them. His citation credits him with killing or wounding about 50 of the enemy, and credits his artillery fire with cutting down many more. He ranks above Bellavia because the assault coming at him was bigger. Armor and a couple hundred infantry, not a handful of men in a house. What keeps him at number 5 is that he wasn't empty-handed. He had a mounted machine gun and artillery on call, tools the men above him did not have. Number 4, Sergeant John Basilone, Guadalcanal in the Solomon Islands. The night of October 24th into the 25th, 1942, Basilone ran 2 sections of heavy machine guns on a stretch of the line in front of Henderson Field, the airfield the whole campaign was being fought over. That night, roughly 3,000 Japanese troops from the Sendai Division hit that part of the perimeter. There's a version of this story that gets repeated a lot, and it's wrong. You'll hear that his whole unit was wiped out and only 3 men lived. His citation doesn't say that. It says one of his 2 gun sections was knocked out, leaving only 2 men left to keep fighting. So Basilone moved a spare gun into position himself. He repaired a jammed one under fire and manned it personally. He fought back through enemy lines to bring up more ammunition, and he held that stretch of the line until replacements arrived. To be clear about the comparison, Basilone wasn't fighting 3,000 men by himself, any more than Murphy fought 250 alone. Both were part of a larger defense, but the assault Basilone was caught in was on another scale. Thousands of troops hitting his line in the dark, his guns failing one at a time, and the airfield everyone was bleeding for right behind him. That's why he sits above Murphy. Number 3, Corporal Alvin York, near the village of Châtel-Chéry in the Argonne, France, October 8, 1918. York was part of a 17-man patrol sent to silence German machine guns that were holding up the American advance. The patrol worked its way behind the German line and started taking prisoners, and then hidden machine guns opened up and killed 6 of them. The senior men were down. York, a corporal who'd grown up hunting in the hills of Tennessee and could genuinely shoot, was suddenly in charge. What he did next, his own commanders didn't believe at first. Working with his rifle and then his pistol, he picked off the German gunners. When a group charged him with bayonets, he shot them down. The German officer in command, watching his men fall and unable to stop him, ordered a surrender. York and the survivors of the patrol walked back to American lines with 132 prisoners. He was credited with killing about 25 Germans and putting 35 machine guns out of action. I put York above Basilone for what that outcome represents. Basilone held the line. York came out of those woods having gutted a machine gun position and marched 132 enemy soldiers back as prisoners. The reason he's that higher is my own judgment. York was a marksman winning a gunfight from cover, and the enemy broke. The last 2 men on this list had no cover to win from, at no point in the day where breaking the enemy was ever on the table. Number 2, Staff Sergeant Roy Benavidez, west of Loc Ninh, Vietnam. May 2nd, 1968, a 12-man Special Forces reconnaissance team was dropped into the jungle to scout a large enemy force and got surrounded by a North Vietnamese force of around 1,000 men. 3 helicopters tried to pull them out and were driven off by fire. Benavidez heard the whole thing over the radio, grabbed a knife and a medical bag, and jumped onto a helicopter, going back in. He jumped off about 75 meters from the team and ran to them through the fire, hit in the leg, face, and head before he even reached them. Then, for the next 6 hours, he organized the survivors, dragged wounded men to the helicopters, called in airstrikes, and went back for the body and the classified documents of the dead team leader. He fought hand to hand when an enemy soldier lunged at him with a bayonet. He caught the blade with his bare hand and killed the man. By the end, he had 37 separate wounds, a broken jaw, and he was holding his own intestines in with his hand. When they finally pulled him onto the helicopter, he was so torn up that a doctor took him for dead and started to zip him into a body bag. Benavidez couldn't speak or move, so he spat in the doctor's face to prove he was alive. His actions saved at least 8 men. He's this high because there was no stretch of those 6 hours where surviving was likely. He wasn't holding a line or winning a gunfight. He walked into a force that should have killed him in the first few minutes and stayed in it for 6 hours. The only reason he isn't number 1 is that he went in with a weapon and the will to use it. The man at number 1 went in with neither. Number 1, the most impossible citation on this list. Private First Class Desmond Doss. Okinawa, early May 1945. Doss was a medic and a Seventh Adventist who, on religious grounds, refused to carry a weapon for the entire war. He'd been mocked and threatened for it in training. On Okinawa, his battalion was trying to take a 400-foot cliff the Japanese had turned into a network of caves and gun positions. The place is remembered now as Hacksaw Ridge. His battalion reached the top and was hit with a wall of artillery, mortar, and machine gun fire. Roughly 75 men went down, and the rest were driven back off the cliff. Doss did not go back. He stayed up top unarmed in the open and went to the wounded one at a time, carrying each man to the edge and lowering him down the 400-foot face on a rope-supported litter. Then he turned around and went back for the next one. Here's the detail that stays with me. Afterward, nobody could settle on how many he'd saved. His officer put it at 100. Doss said it couldn't have been more than 50. He didn't think he'd had the time. The number history split the difference on, the one you'll see today, is 75. He's number 1 for the plainest reason on the list. Every other man here carried a weapon. Every other man could shoot back, could force the enemy to keep their heads down, could tilt the odds a little. Doss went back into open fire with a medical bag and a rope and nothing else, over and over, to pull other men out. That's my pick for the most impossible thing on this list. So there's the list. From Bellavia holding a doorway in Fallujah to Desmond Doss lowering the wounded off a cliff by rope. I rank these by the odds each man faced, but that's my argument, not a measurement, and you may well see it differently. If you'd put Benavidez at number 1 or think I sold York short, say so, and tell me whose citation I should break down next. There are more than 3,500 Medal of Honor recipients, and most of them nobody ever talks about.